What's up, everybody? Happy Saturday. It's good to see y'all. Y'all know the vibes, TGF Book Club. We do this every Saturday morning, 10:30 to 11 o'clock. We jamming out to some music, vibing, chopping it up. And then we get going with our discussion with a book in a sector of spirituality and personal growth and skill sets so that you can build the thing between your ears to literally become the person that is required to get the life that you truly desire. I am extremely grateful for this call. We've been doing this well over 2 years now. It's kind of crazy. Every Saturday morning, despite, or granted, if we're all on a trip somewhere, but it's been amazing to understand and recognize the gems and the answers that are hidden in books. And I say hidden because they're not hidden from anybody in the public. It's just most people don't pick up the book and read it. I It honestly blows my mind. And I wish I could slap my 18-year-old self because y'all, I don't know how many successful people would tell me to read books like the one that we're covering today, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And I would take my time. And I wasn't even taking any time, to be honest, maybe like half a page a day or something. And I wouldn't read it. And as I started learning through experience by applying principles and that I would learn from my mentors and educators, I recognized as I started reading the books and getting intentional that if I had opened this thing up 4 years ago, 5 years ago, my time frame would have collapsed. I would be so much further ahead. So our goal with this call is to make sure that y'all recognize that yes, sometimes reading can be daunting. Yes, sometimes reading is a lot. But if you do what people who are fulfilled and have a large amount of success, again, success being defined as the progressive realization of a worthy ideal, you will get what they have. And most seven-figure earners read books. Not every seven-figure earner. Every eight-figure earner, though, reads. So if you want to make a substantial amount of income, you have to become a substantially different person. And a lot of people expect to get a lot of different results remaining exactly who they are or entertaining the things that they do in the current state or period of life that they find themselves in. The key is to learn and apply the principles you get from these books so that you could grow and develop over the course of time, and the compounded daily changes that you implement from the things that you're not only learning from your mentors, that you're not only learning from courses, but that you're learning from the answers that have been written down, the stories that have been told within these books will literally make the difference along your journey. And I'm excited to hear exactly how this helped you guys along your process and where you find yourselves at today. So as we covered last week, it was over part one, chapters 1 through 3. He covered the 3 principles of don't criticize, condemn, or complain. Principle 2 was give honest and sincere appreciation. Principle 3 was to arouse in the other person an eager want. Okay. Those are the fundamental techniques in handling people. If you missed the book club, I highly recommend go catching the recording. It is in the app. Now, part number 2 is the 6 ways to make people like you. We've got chapter 1. We're going to go through chapters 1 through 3, essentially principles 1 through 3. Principle 1, do this and you will be welcome anywhere. Principle 2, a simple way to make a good first impression. And then principle 3 is remembering, principle 3 is if you don't do this, you are headed for trouble. And this is like, these are fire, y'all. I remember, I'm just going to go ahead and kick us off. Is that's okay? Bow, all smooth, because I don't think people recognize how important these 3 principles are. Starting with the first one, becoming genuinely interested in other people. I want to point out what he had in italics on page 53. He says, it is the individual who is not interested in his fellow men who has the greatest difficulties in life and provides the greatest injury to others. It is from among such individuals that all human failures spring. What does he mean by that? Y'all got to understand, this book has not only been recommended by all my mentors, but it's also been read and utilized by the most successful people on the planet. So here's the guarantee. If you choose not to take interest in other people, you have set yourself up for failure. That is the biggest thing that I remember literally learning back then, and think the biggest word that stood out to me was genuinely. Genuine interest in what other people have. So for those who do not have, wow, those who do not have the word genuine in their vocabulary, by definition, it's an adjective that describes you truly what something is said to be and authentic. So if you don't truly have interest in someone else, not just say you have interest, or as he says, as all of us like to do, is admire people, then you're not in a position to really put yourself in someone else's shoe. Here's the guarantee that I've learned throughout life, and that I've been, as I started applying this principle, being interested in other people, is you want to develop real friendships. And if you want to help others at the same time as you help yourself, you've got to keep this in mind. Everybody has their own spotlight. And most of the time, about 98% of the people you run into, their spotlight is on themselves. Whenever you show genuine interest into someone else, meaning you take your own spotlight for a second and you shine it on the person you're speaking with, or the person you're wanting to develop a relationship with, they not only hear you, but they feel you. And Mama Rachel, shout out our big shot session. If you're in the app, you got the recording. Fire and Desire. A lot of the relationships and the people that remembered Miss Rachel Black Johnson was because of not what she said, but how she made them feel. She took genuine interest in someone else in the times where they would come and do business or spend time with her. And from that point, they developed a connection, because for a second, even, she took her own spotlight on what she had going on and she put it on someone else, and she listened and she connected. So I challenge y'all throughout this week to implement these principles as you move forward, and actually take some time when you find yourself being over concerned about your situations, your circumstances, what your wants and your desires. Like, go and talk to somebody and show genuine interest in them, and see whether or not that person can be developed into a friend by you creating an actual connection with them. Principle number 2, a simple way to make a good first impression. Y'all, you got to smile, man. I like this. A smile goes so far, and people don't recognize that. Here's what he says. The expression one wears on one's face is far more important than the clothes one wears on one's back. Me and Mikhail are very observant of this, because we understood this principle. We apply it very often. So when we recognize someone's facial expression, like, we talk about it, and then we are more mindful and aware of our own expressions as we reach out and connect with new people. I know when I'm out and about, just smiling actually makes a person's day better. You're giving out the energy that you want to receive. And I honestly underestimated the effect of a smile, because for a long time before I read this book, I was just in a season of my life that I was settling for. And I just realized that if I wanted to have a good time meeting people, I also have to make it a good time for those who are meeting me. And it is more, fix your face, not facts. I'll be telling a lot of people the same thing, including myself. But like, people read that, man, before a word gets spoken. Like, someone knows exactly how you feel based on your facial expressions. They said, I don't know, what's that cliche kind of remark that people make on a consecutive basis? It's it takes more muscles to frown than it does to smile. And in the 7 spiritual laws of success, y'all, we should be looking for the route of least effort. So just smile, man. It honestly releases endorphins in your body when you do. Go look this thing up. It's kind of crazy. #science. Y'all know me. I'm a science head. But in that, man, just being mindful that if you can find yourself unconsciously seizing upon the opportunities that are required for the fulfillment of your desire, just remember that carry your chin in and the crown of your head high. Once I reread this on page 69, he said, preserve a right mental attitude, the attitude of courage, frankness, and good cheer. To think rightly is to create. All things come through desire, and every sincere prayer is answered. I want to repeat that one more time, because sometimes we just be reading and it goes over your head. This is why he said to go read these twice, not just one time. Preserve a right mental attitude, the attitude of courage, frankness, and good cheer. To think rightly is to create. All things come through desire, and every sincere prayer is answered. We become like that on which our hearts are fixed. We become like that on which our hearts are fixed. Carry your chin in and the crown of your head high. Y'all, you do not have much control of anything on this planet, in this life. But as my mentor, Mark said, it taught me, you do control your attitude. You control your perspective. You control what thoughts you entertain, what you focus on. So if you are mindful and you recognize this principle that rightful thinking is your ability to create, because you'll have wrongful thinking too. What are you focused on? And then if you hold on to the right attitude, watch you be of more good cheer, and you naturally smile. And most people, when you step in the room, they're like, yo, I don't know what it is about this young man, this young woman, but they bring a certain vibe and energy toward them that is evidently different than the rest of the room. And I promise y'all, most people do not take the right mental attitude, and this will set you apart, which is why it's extremely important to implement smiling if you want to actually make people like you. If you don't, you're never going to influence people. I wouldn't give it a chance. You got to smile. And I feel like if you are just mindful of how many times you smile, you'll understand exactly why certain people might feel some type of way about you, or why they feel comfortable around you as well. And then the last one, if you don't do this, you are headed for trouble. Remember that a person's name is to that person the sweetest and most important sound in any language. This one principle changed everything for me, because I sucked with names, y'all. And I'll just give you all the one tip that he wrote if you didn't read the book or have gotten here yet. On page 78, he says, if you have trouble remembering their name, repeat the name several times and try to associate it in your mind with something that you can relate to. So like, for example, if I met this guy named Tom, first thing I'm going to do once he tells me like, hey bro, what's your name? He says Tom. I'm like, bro, Tom, it's nice to meet you. First, I'm going to repeat the name back to him and recognize that I heard what his name was. And in my head, I'm repeating his name. Like, this is something I do actively all the time. Tom, 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 Tom. Boom, Tom and Jerry. Tom and Jerry, that's Tom. What's up, Tom? I got you. So the next time that I see him, or the next time I chop it up with him, I'm like, boom, what's his name? What's his name? Tom and Jerry. What's up, Tom? It's good to see you, bro. Been a long time. He's like, yo, bro, you remember my name? You don't know. You'll be surprised how many people are surprised that you remember their name. Most people, again, got a spotlight on themselves, and they don't even put the energy or the care to remember someone else's name. Make yourself the difference and actually put energy and effort into the name. This is the only thing I want to put as an insight that I learned. I'm gonna give props to where props is due. Shout out my ex. I used to struggle with this and remembering people's name. And I remember complaining to her about these concepts and how like I couldn't remember people's name, and it just annoyed me. And she was like, look, it's not that you can't remember their name. It's just that you don't give an F enough to care about their name. And I was like, damn, I guess I don't. Because if I actually cared, I'd actually do, but I didn't. And from that moment on, I was like, all right, bet. I'm going to be more intentional about actually caring about who someone else's name is. The average person is more interested in his or her own name than in all the other names on the earth put together. Remember that the name and call it easily, and you have paid a subtle and very effective compliment. So give people compliments. Let them recognize that you not only have heard them, but you have seen them, and that you want to genuinely develop a connection with them, and you will create intentional relationships, some of which, where regardless of what happens, regardless of whatever conflict is in tune, that person that you have created a connection with will recall and remember all the actions of your feet that have led to that moment in time, and they will consider whether or not you are who you said you are based on the fruits of your character. So be mindful, guys. These things are very small and practical, but they hold so much freaking weight. The only way it'll be significant to you is if you make it significant, period. So anyways, I really love these 3 principles when I first read them, and I usually don't open the call like that. So I just wanted to dive in real quick, give some value. Anyways, with that being said, I will popcorn this thing over to Amber. Looks ready. Go ahead, girl.
Oh, we're in California and it's 8 o'clock over here.
Hey, you devoted, girl. I see you.
9 right now. But I'm so glad I woke up because I was so I read all 6 principles because I thought we were supposed to, but it's okay. So the first one, principle number 1, become genuinely interested in other people. So do this and you'll be welcome everywhere. I started thinking about like why this actually used to be very, very difficult for me for a while. And it actually recently just became not difficult for me. And so whenever I first heard this principle, become genuinely interested in other people, I was like, duh, like, of course I need to be genuinely interested in other people. Like, why wouldn't I? And then the more that I attempted to apply these principles, if I be completely honest and true, that a part of me didn't care, like for a while, like about other people. I wasn't interested. And I asked myself, like, why? Like, why aren't you interested? Like, come on, dude. And I know this wasn't because I'm a bad person or anything like that. So I'm like, what is it? And I realized that not just me, but I think in the beginning of like our personal development and the beginning of us really going after things and like healing stuff for ourselves, I feel like a big part of me not being genuinely interested in other people was because there was a part of me for a long time that personally didn't feel like seen and heard myself. And so like in my young adulthood, there was like this, I don't know, a big subconscious part of me that didn't want to hear anybody else because I myself wasn't seen and heard for a long time. And so I wasn't interested. And so then after a while of like, doing my own personal work, allowing myself to be like feel seen and heard and continuing to apply this principle, continuing to understand the importance of that and like pushing myself to genuinely care, genuinely, be interested, ask other questions. I have become genuinely interested. And so I don't know if anyone else like relates to that. I know like, like hard to like admit that to yourself, but like I really had to just be real with myself and ask myself, like, Amber, like why I had like this like sense of like apathy. And I realized it's because I needed some heart healing. But did that. And so yes, being genuinely interested and really understanding that like somebody else, there's something that another person has that like you don't, there's something that you can learn from them. And when you like practice that and you allow yourself to know that and push yourself, really like a way to be good at that is really just ask the universe, like, show me the people around me, show me the value in other people. And when you ask like a question like that and you have that posture of genuinely being interested, genuinely wanting to get better, you'll come across people over and over again that will that like you'll never expect have something that something that you don't know or this and that. And then like over time you'll just continue to see, like you'll realize how much you don't know and how much you can learn from other people like consistently over and over and over again. It's crazy. So that's principle number 1. Principle number 2, a simple way to make a good first impression: smiling. Honestly, I really had to apply this principle last weekend. There was a moment where I did not feel like smiling. I remember like walking into a building and I literally had to tell myself, like, Amber, you have got to smile. Like, you have to. And I was like coaching myself and being like, Amber, like, smile now. Because I didn't feel like it. And I knew in the moment that it didn't matter how I feel, like, my impression and the perception that I was giving off was my responsibility, despite the way that I felt. And so, even though I didn't feel like smiling, and I just kept telling myself, like, you got to smile, you can't just, because if you don't smile, like, I was just going to look like like a mad woman. And I did not like what it looked like that. It's yes, definitely smiling and like, you know, being aware of our facial expressions, being aware of the expression that we're giving off. And one thing that I've heard like this past year, which is like a different perspective, a different way of saying it, but yeah, like being responsible for your perception. Like, yeah, we're not responsible for the way other people feel, you know, like there's a certain level of responsibility that everybody else has to themselves, but we are responsible for, you know, the way that we're coming off, the perception that we're giving off, the um yeah, we're responsible for ourselves. So, and how we make other people feel. So smiling definitely helps that. Obviously, you know, makes you more welcome, you know, more welcoming face when, you know, you're around people that you don't know and, you know, you're networking and stuff. It's obviously, you know, get a smile because it just helps. It helps a lot. You're more, yeah, you're just more welcoming, more approachable, which obviously for anything, like one thing about this book is that it doesn't, these principles aren't just for like business, like they're obviously for, you know, friends and people, but really for our like, relationships. And when we care about our relationships and we care about the quality of our life, our entire life, our relationships, literally, like every single situation, if you think about it, is because of you and another person. Like they're people. And so um applying these principles into like everyday life is really good too. I remember at my last job, I went into the job intentionally applying these principles because um I wanted to make a good impression. And I remember like every single morning I would do my best to like, you know, say good morning. I would smile, I would remember people's names, which is the next one. And I remember like I had this coworker who was totally projecting onto me, but she's like, "Why are you like that? Like, why are you just always so happy every single morning?" She's like, "You're just like too much, like 8 in the morning, this and that." Like, I just don't get people like you. I just don't get like why you're like that. Obviously, she's a hater. But secondly, she didn't understand that I wasn't just like that. Like I was being intentional about that. Like there was intentionally things that I was doing every single morning. I was making sure I was saying people's names. I was making sure I was smiling. I was making sure I was greeting people in the morning. I was making sure that I was being a pleasure to work with because that's my job, is my everyday life, you know, and me cultivating those relationships throughout my job, it really paid off. Like people liked me at work. I liked other people. And, you know, when you build relationships like that, they really carry you. And I still have good relationships with all of them. Unlike her who ended up getting laid off, like something else, you know, people yourself. Anyway, so chapter 3, if you don't do this, you're headed for trouble. So remembering people's names. Yes, remembering people's names is so important. And I know whenever I hear like my name, like this happened like 2 months ago. We had went to an event and there was this lady and I had just met her and she was talking to all of us like in a group of people and she like, asked me my name like real quick and then like she said hi and then she continued to talk to everybody else and then like 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, she said my name. She was like, "Hey Amber," this and that. I remember I genuinely felt like hello because she remembered my name and it made me feel like really special in the moment. I was like, oh, hey. Um, and another thing, so remember people's name is important. And yes, like it could be difficult, you know, if you say to yourself that it's difficult to remember people's names, but you know, obviously be aware of your words, be aware that, you know, we have the power to be able to do anything. So when we say things like it's hard to remember other people's names, we're gonna make it hard for ourselves, right? So just begin there and tell yourself, like, no, I can remember people's names, and then use the practices in the chapter that it talked about, which is, you know, saying someone's name over and over and over again, you know, attaching something to that person, like whatever it is that you have to do to remember someone's name, do that and go out of your way to do that because it's very important. It's very important in all your relationships. It's important. And another thing to remembering someone's names is take effort in pronouncing somebody's name the right way, especially if it's in a different language. Like don't just be like, oh, I just don't know how to say it and just say something else. No, like it is very important to someone to hear their name said correctly. And also for yourself, if you have a name that's commonly said, um, like it's commonly mispronounced, push yourself to have enough confidence in yourself to correct other people in a graceful way to say your name correctly. Like your name is very important to you, something that you're called. And there's so many names out here that people have gone out of their way to be able to pronounce, and our names are that special to be able to pronounce well as well. So, and also obviously make sure that you are going out of your way to pronounce somebody else's name correctly. You know, like just ask them like, hey, this is how this pronounced, you know, practice. And when you do that, do it genuinely because you want to, you know, get their name right and respect them. But also when you do that, it also makes the other person know that you care about them as a person, that you value their name, that you value, you know, who they are in your relationship with them. And it'll just make everything better. So those were 3 principles, and those are my takeaways from them. So that is all I got to say. I will popcorn Kelsey next because she okay.
Hey, Amber, I threw a little comment in the chat
Oh,
uh,
if you
about
okay.
perspective. So sometimes when we think about the task as doing the task, we gotta be mindful of like what elicits that action or that response. So for me, it's helped a lot just maintaining, like, I know you do gratitude practices, the whole 9 yards, but once I remain in a positive perspective of what I'm grateful for, like smiling is a organic response versus like something that I have to remember. But I definitely know what you mean about like having to remind yourself, especially if you're going through it. So all good.
Yeah.
At that tidbit in there.
Yeah, and that really helps too. Like whenever you're going through it, and you know that you should. Like that's, I guess, like a way on how you would do that. It's just like remind yourself of like the positive things. You know, count your blessings. You know, think about all the things that there is to be happy about, and it helps. But Kelsey, you're next.
Yeah, I have AirPods in. Let me go outside. They're, oh my gosh. They're talking about who knows what in there. Morning, y'all. Um, yeah, I was listening. I ordered this book and for some reason off Amazon, it did not arrive when it said it was going to arrive. So I've been listening to it, and especially when going through this part, I really found myself kind of putting myself in the shoes of the person, you know, that we would be interacting with. And you know, the first part of it, having, like Marcus said, like emphasis on the genuine interest in someone. I'm sure I'm not the only one who's ever experienced, like, you're talking to someone and you can just tell that like you're speaking to them, you're telling them about yourself because they asked, and you can tell that they're just sitting there just to be nice. You know, they don't want to look rude. Um, but having that feeling and knowing that, like, yo, like I feel like that every time like I talk to Marcus. Like that dude will stare into my soul with genuine, you know, curiosity of what I'm talking about, how I'm feeling, you know, whatever the conversation at hand would be. And so um, that really helped me, you know, putting myself, like I said, in that other side perspective, just to be like, you know, like that's how, you know, obviously we are trying to make other people feel, whether they're, you know, it's a brand new interaction, just meeting someone, or people that we've known, you know, for a long time. Um, I didn't really finish the end of it because we pulled up to my grandpa's house here, but um, also, yeah, I know obviously Marcus and Amber have both touched on just like remembering little things about people. The story they were telling about Theodore Roosevelt with the mechanic and the car that you know, he had made for him because he wasn't able to use his legs, and so someone, you know, created a whole vehicle that he could use just with his hands, and how he, you know, didn't really have to, but took the time to show genuine appreciation and pointing out every little thing of, you know, things that he knew took time to Amber, you really just posed for that Instagram story. I saw that. Anyway, but really took the time to point out little things that he knew took time on the mechanic's part just to make sure that he was able to utilize a vehicle, you know, like everyone else, and the genuine joy that you know that mechanic felt, that a lot of people would overlook that. And doing that, you know, I've had people in my life a few years ago when my grandpa was in the hospital and stuff. I was talking to somebody about it, and you know, it was just kind of a in between conversation, little tidbit that was said. But then, you know, a week passed, and that person called me. They didn't text me. They didn't, you know, shoot me a Snapchat or anything. They called me and was like, "Hey," like first thing they said is like, "Hey, how's your grandpa doing?" And I'm like, "Whoa, like you remember saying that." And obviously, you know, that person knew that that was something that was super important to me. Me and my grandpa are like homies. And so it just felt really good, you know, to know that, you know, that person remembered, you know, little details about that. So just overall, um, that was kind of my big takeaway that kept smacking me in the face, was the word like genuine. Like I was kind of like Amber too, where it's like, yeah, I'll have conversations with people, but just for the sake of being nice and having conversation with people. But you know, to really delve in with people even further is having that genuine interest, and you know, asking them intentional questions about themselves, their names, etc., and remembering them, because you know, even down the line, that could make a huge difference out of, you know, someone's day. So I think we're heading out to a baby shower here soon, so I can't see who else is on here. Donnie, D, I don't know where Mikkel went. We'll call on Donnie. Donnie was laying down. Donnie, wake up. Oh. Oh. Good morning,
Morning,
Donovan.
y'all.
Where's
Good
my mama,
morning.
bro?
What's up?
Where's my mama?
Morning.
He is cleaning the garage.
Okay, I'm gonna have a convo with my mama.
And then after, I'm gonna help her clean the backyard.
Bet. I appreciate you, bro. What a real one. Go ahead. Sorry, I was just curious where my mom was at.
And your sister too, she could be reading. But
Hey, I've been telling her, bro. Hey, we been telling you, Anna.
that's probably y'all. I've been up, just laying down, watching Micah, hanging with him. Uh, but something serious in these principles within the chapters, especially just how I see it, very unconsciously. We do these things, and that's like the level of learning that you want to get to in unconscious competence. It's like level 4 of the learning levels, and in that, just like looking back and seeing the different occasions that I've like now understand that I apply these principles and how it is that I communicate with people. Specifically here recently, um, been a long time friend. Uh, then I met him in 2nd grade, and we're best friends sophomore year. And some stuff happened, and we stopped talking after an incident happened with us, and I hadn't seen him honestly since then. and ran into him last weekend at the Ripper. And since then, just been chopping it up throughout the week. He'll call me. Um, just been going through it mentally, and spiritually, and just looking to grow in in those areas, and um, talking with him and just seeing how it is like the way that I communicate because we FaceTime, and like what he told me was like, bro, you like have such a piece to the way that you talk, and like not a lot of people have that, and it makes me want to talk to you. Um, so reconnecting in that process and seeing how like do it on FaceTime, I'm sitting here smiling and like on things that he says, and as I'm speaking, smiling, and then just being genuinely interested in him and catching up and how he's been and what's going on, what he's going through, and like offering um offering guidance and constructive criticism in that process. Um and I spoke to him about the part one principles, and how we've been reading this book and I like, bro, I'm really just like applying the things that I've learned and letting them know like it's to know and not to do is to not know at all. And um so in that process, like I said, seeing those principles play out, and then in other conversations and situations that I've been in and had throughout the week, and just seeing how a lot of people in the world today don't communicate with each other. We go throughout the world and go about our business and doing whatever we're doing. And it's like, oh, what's up? A little nod, whatever. Um, and so learning from that man Mikkel over the years, just communicating with people outside and having those genuine conversations, applying these principles and smiling and remembering the name and being truly interested in who someone is, even if it's just at the gas station or the grocery store. It's like, yo, what's up? How you doing? Like having a true, genuine interest in like something that they got on or something they're buying or whatever it is, or their car. And so just continue to work on that and bring light in the world, because I get truly lights people's day up, because not a lot of people go throughout the world talking with everybody and truly like being about that person rather than themselves. 'Cause a lot of people are all about themselves. So these chapters hit for sure. I'm excited for the chapters to come, especially as um like I am becoming more aware and utilizing these principles unconsciously in situations, but very intentional and not for like myself and my best benefit, but like to truly connect with people and um, make friends and you know and lead. So I'll go ahead and pass this thing to Gemini.
Yo, and Cuzzo, if you have not read or you are not up to speed, you can
Yes.
just touch on some of the big takeaways you got from everyone else discussing. DD, same for you, bro. But I'm gonna teach you where the book's at in the app. Go ahead, you got the floor though.
Honestly, I was just like really taken away by, because I was just actually preaching to my friend. I do a lot of work in the communities and also on myself. I'm just practicing meditating. I'm practicing the law of manifestation, the law of attraction, and I've been reading a lot of audios. But also I've also been listening to a lot of frequencies. And so being a music artist, I feel like it's so important to balance yourself and balance the energies around you. And lately, I've been delving into just understanding myself, understanding the gist of helping other people because I met a lady yesterday, right? Me and my best friend were outside and there was a situation going on, a housing situation. And I don't want to share too much of her business without her permission, but let's just say that we ran into a lady at a gas station and she ended up writing my friend a $1,300 check. And she looked at me and she said, "This is what we do for people. We help people." And just the point of her helping her, it blessed me because I got to witness that blessing and see that what I'm doing is correct. I have to continue to help people no matter what's going on. Like, I don't mean to, share too much of my business, but my mother just got evicted and she has to move in with me right now. While I'm in the midst of creating the greatest life for myself possible, I have, opportunities coming from everywhere. I'm working with the mayor of Brooklyn Park. I'm doing video work for Terrence Howard. And so just hearing some of what the stories you guys shared and just the the motivation in your voice to help other people and to be blessed in that same instance is really uplifting to me. I have not read the book. I would love to read the book. I'm in the phase of reading right now, and I do understand that like the money is in the books, the knowledge is in the books, the power is in the books, everything is in the books. So that's it for me.
Fire, appreciate the insight, girl.
Absolutely,
You're a real one. You're doing some big things. I'm excited, y'all. She's definitely
man.
been impacting the community something serious, and it's literally right in tune with everything that we got going on as a community as well in terms of TGF. And I'm just grateful that you still plug in from time to time, girl. Good to hear your voice. I'm sad I didn't get to see you while I was out there, but next time I'm out in the cities, we gonna.
Absolutely, fam. I'm happy to be here and I can't wait to, learn more and grow with you guys. I think Michael's sending me that book, so I'm gonna get on it.
Okay, bad, smooth. Dee, do you have anything you wanna input in, bro, before Mikhail wraps us up with his insight and closes us out?
Yeah, listening to everybody what they have to say. Uh, yeah, knowing somebody's name will come a long way. And meditation definitely will teach you about a lot of the energy you can feel around people at one time. And I'm always smiling. So, like, in the deep south, we always, talk to greet yourself or greet the person that you meet. So, like, it be a bunch of time I'm at work and I see somebody and I just yell their name with a great big smile, you know, and you'll be amazed how quick somebody will turn their frown right upside down.
Literally. Oh, my bad. I didn't know
Literally.
that was muted.
So sorry, I'm just jumping back on things, Somebody definitely gotta send me that book. But yeah, listen to everybody's story. I'm pretty excited about how y'all like to do things and run things, and that's all I gotta say.
Appreciate you, bro. Mikhail's got the floor. Wrap us up, big dog. What was your insight, player?
That's all good. Dude, you guys are cold, bro. I don't even want to go after none of y'all, bro. Like, quit playing. Whole squad came on here and dropped bars. Even freaking Jade hopped on here and dropped some bars. Quit playing. This is crazy. Honestly, we're blessed. See, you don't have to hop on and be a fan, bro. You should have been on the whole call talking about you want to hear me. Mm-hmm. Hashtag accountability. Anyway, yep. Babe, don't act like we ain't been doing this for almost 3 years. Talking about is in my Zoom. This girl. Well, listen, y'all. I'm actually defying one of the rules right now. I should be nicer about how I correct things. You know what I'm saying? But I'm gonna be transparent. One, I didn't obviously last weekend was a little bit busy for me all of last week. So I was not caught up by the time we did book club last week, which is also the reason I was not on to was handling some things in the process. So in that, like I caught up to all my reading and got to this part two and started to read into part one. And then I was like, you know what? Instead of reading while all these niggas talk, I'm going to just be present while everybody talks today. So I listened to y'all before I go and catch up on this reading. And so with that, I'm going to one, talk about some things that I loved in part one, because I didn't really get to share all that last week. And two, chop it up about what you guys also just spoke about. So first thing, Donnie, one, I appreciate you sitting on all those calls, bro, and learning the vibes. I literally be like, bro, I'll call you back. He'd be like, nah, bro, let me stay, bro. So I appreciate him for catching all those vibes because it's made me get very intentional too, because it's like another level of like integrity almost. It's like already you got to be integritous because integrity is about what you do and nobody's looking. But like then I'm right there in the conversation and somebody's literally listening, you know? So I have to be extremely mindful and extremely intentional about what I'm out there communicating with people. And then from there, after so long and so many times doing it, it eventually becomes a habit. You know, I just kind of like forced myself into it on top of already being that way. Shout out to you, Donnie, because it's added some extra extra accountability into my life. And with that, it's just made me better. So I literally appreciate everybody. Like I do not be fronting when I say that you guys all literally make all of us better, each and every one of you guys in your own specific ways. It's dope. That's how we all continuously learn lessons because life is learned by going through it. So it's amazing that we get the application and just little things like that where it feels insignificant for a long time until you look back on it and then you're like, wow, this is actually why these dots have connected. So it's dope. But to go into those first three things, what was it? One, knowing somebody's name. Actually, I was the most horrible person at names for the longest. I'm still, if you look at my phone, I'm still kind of bad. You know what I'm saying? I don't say people's numbers like that. Like my younger brother literally changed the spelling of his name and the correct last name to his contact last Saturday at sound check. You know what I'm saying? He was like, bro, what's good, bro? I was like, bro, my apologies, my dog. You know what I'm saying? Like for real. Because truly, I've been bad at that. I'm actually, it's been something that I've had to consciously work on. And I've literally in that same battle as Amber, like needing to do it versus wanting to do it. It's a, you right, you right. You know what I'm saying? You right. My wife is definitely a fan. As I said, she wasn't here for that part. I should have been reacting different in the correction. She texted me, I love you, babe. But with that though, when it comes to everybody, like I have been just kind of bad at that over the years. And that battle between wanting to and needing to, I found myself also consciously having to fight. So it's kind of crazy that all these things came up in conversation as I've been tuning into these calls because it's been something that I've literally been like recently really working on is understanding people's names, getting back into a season of not selfishness because I was in a season where things were just everywhere and I was trying to make sure that my family was cool. And in doing that, I became a lot more self-centered than squad-centered. And so in that, like having to go through these internal battles, I think that this book is right on time for me. It was dope to actually go through last week. I don't know who all was on the call last week or if it was more packed, but truly this part is for everybody who's really not on the call. That first part, I sent a picture of it in the leaders chat if you're in our leaders chat. But those parts where he was just talking about the kind of the principles that he covered in the first chapter or the first part. One, develop a deep driving desire to master the principles of human relations. 2, read each chapter twice. Just actually digest the information and like actually let it like really understand it. As I say, overstand it. He says read each chapter twice. Overstand it versus understand it. But as you read, stop frequently to ask yourself how you can apply each suggestion, underscore principles at every opportunity, and use this as a working handbook to help you solve your daily problems. And then also, yeah, make a lively game out of your learning by offering some friend a dime or $1 every time he or she catches you violating one of these principles. And then he's also said, check up each week on the progress you're making and ask yourself what mistakes that you have made, what improvement, what lessons you have learned, and the whole nine. Ask yourself, what lessons you have learned for the future. My bad. This is all in screenshots because I have the ebook version. Keep notes in the back of the book showing how and when you've applied the principles. All of those were the principles that he walked through in the first part. And those are just how to get the most out of the book. But ultimately, like if we break those down, that's also how to get the most out of your life and your personal development and your professional career and your business model or the education that you're pursuing, whatever the case may be. First and foremost, you got to actually want to and develop a deep driving desire to master the principles of human relations. You've got to actually want to do it, period. That's the reason why we're reading this book. You've got to actually want to have friends and influence people. And if you don't want to actually want to have friends and influence people, you're probably not going to read the book. And that's just the reality. If you don't want to actually go and personally develop and grow yourself, then you're probably not going to be on something that you have access to every single week to grow and personally develop yourself. You have all of these systems. You've just got to put in that. You got to have the desire for the results to come, period. And then in that, past having the desire, you've also got to check your work. Meaning, one, you got to work, but two, you got to go back and check your work. I have these moments, Saturdays and Sundays. I just kind of divvy up between the day, just between like what's going on in the family. But I be having moments where I just sit in here and I will cut off all the screens. I will cut off the music. I will cut off the light, except for the green one in the back. You know what I'm saying? I got to keep the TGF vibe. But with that, I will sit in my office and just be and just literally think about the week, think about everything that I've done, think about the people that I've met, the chess pieces that I've moved, think about how I can connect those dots going backwards to see how I can make future bigger, better moves in the going forward. Like I literally sit here and I do that sometimes. It's low key why we spend a lot of time in the garage. I know my wife is listening, but ultimately, like as he walks through these principles in the book, I related them to my life because this is how you get better. What gets tracked gets done is ultimately what that first part is talking about. Saying, hey, get the desire and then go work through it and then track your results and go back and look at your notes and take notes on all of the lessons that you've learned. Big shout out, Marcus. I've absolutely loved how much he has referenced my mother this week. It's been wild. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm like, this is fire. But because it's my mom, you know, but ultimately it's because he literally took notes on that call that he can go back on and he references. And he does this often in different books, different notebooks, often. He literally shows you guys. And this is why they say at all the events, note takers are money makers. The reason being is because they're tracking what's actually getting done. Therefore, they can actually progress because it's so easy to forget, as he talked about in his book. It's so easy to forget everything. It's hard for me to remember what book we read 5 books ago. I'd have to literally go back and pull up the freaking list and tell you because I don't remember. But I can go in and look at my notebook and look at the notes and see what I wrote down or pick up that book and actually look at what I highlighted, what I circled, the pages I pulled down in the corners, the screenshots I have in my phone. Like you've got to actually be in tune, and you won't be in tune unless you actually want to. And the other two things that I thought was very interesting is he talked about everything that you and I do springs from 2 motives: the sex urge and the desire to be great. And I was like, that's actually wild because I never really thought about life like that. Like, that's literally like when you really break things down, you either have a desire to do something great, to do something more, to do something, to be something, period. Like everything comes from desire. We know this. We literally just power of awareness, shout out power of awareness. But ultimately, y'all, like it all comes from a desire. So you have to start there. And if you feel that you are not progressing further enough, maybe you should check your desire. And this is why mom talked about go do something fun. Because when you're in the midst of walking through the beach in Mexico at 4 a.m. because you woke up super early and you caught the sunrise, you're not doing anything about but thinking about the dreams and goals in life that you have and being grateful for it. That is when those moments when you are like quote unquote stress free is when you have your deepest connecting moments to your deepest desires. And this is why that's actually important. What she talked about and what we talk about here with our third pillar of experience. It's why it's in our bio experience creates expansion. It is deeper than you think, period. So ultimately, it's the reason why we've cultivated and created the culture that we have here between doing fun things and business things, squad things, business things, reading, mental health, kicking it, Mexico, like doing all of the pieces to the puzzle, literally. It's about empowerment, it's about education, and it's about experience. And when you put all three of those things together, as what this book is low key saying, and then you track your results, you can get better and better and better and better and better. And you just get really good at this life experience. And that's what I'm excited about the most because I really feel that we are all getting very good at this life experience as we're networking, as we're influencing people, but as we're most importantly influencing ourselves. And then by leading it by example, that's how you influence others too. So it's lit. I'm loving this book. I'm loving where we're headed. I'm loving where we're at. I'm loving where we're going as well. So let's get it cracking, y'all. And Marcus, I'm gonna pass it back to you to talk about next week.
Cool. Shout out you, bro, for the value. And going into next week, y'all, it's just wrapping up the rest of part 2. I will have the remaining of the book planned out for the rest of the book club events in the app. Again, if you want to know what chapters we're reading for the week ahead, you can either very simply just be on Wednesday team call. We talk about that at the closing announcements. And then secondly, you can go to the event on the homepage. You can go to the event on the book club tab. You can click on it, and under description, you'll see the exact chapters we're reading. So just to recap for everybody, the 3 principles to continue and track this coming week as you read these next 3 is principle 1, become genuinely interested in other people. Principle 2, smile. All right, thanks, Amber. Participated. Kels, I can't believe you just looked at me with a straight face when I just and then 3, remember that a person's name is to that person the sweetest and most important sound in any language. So we're gonna go over 4, 5, and 6. They're relatively short. It's not too bad. It's like 25 pages. I think that's very doable for 7 days before we get into part 3. But yeah, man. You could definitely show us something real quick, Amber. We appreciate everybody. Let us know if you got any questions, and I'll make sure the recording goes up very shortly. What's popping?
Hey, so we were talking about like powerful experiences and all this stuff. I really want to show y'all this Airbnb because it is one of probably the best Airbnbs I've ever been to. It is so thorough, so detailed. So
Where in Cali are you at?
we're in LA, we're by Long Beach.
Oh, okay. Fire. Hold on really quick. Recording. Much love, y'all. Have a good rest of your day.
Oh yeah, and